Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 700 Club, an historic fourth indictment. Overnight, a Georgia district attorney charged former President Donald Trump with a new set of charges related to the 2020 presidential election.
The Fulton County grand jury accuses Trump and 18 others of a sweeping criminal conspiracy to overturn election results in that state. Reporter Caitlin Burke has the latest.
The indictment alleges that rather than abide by Georgia's legal process for election challenges, the defendants engaged in a criminal racketeering enterprise to overturn Georgia's presidential election result.
Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis has led a multi-year investigation into allegations of election interference. They were sparked in part by a phone call from then-President Trump. In it, he appeared to pressure Georgia's Secretary of State to find the votes needed to win back the White House.
Specifically, the participants in association took various actions in Georgia and elsewhere to block the counting of the votes of the presidential electors.
The 97-page indictment includes 13 new felony charges against Trump and 41 charges overall, including solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer, engaging in a conspiracy to replace public officials with fake electors, and plotting to tamper with voting machines. Others indicted include Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, Rudy Giuliani, and John Eastman. In a Truth Social post early this morning, Trump called the prosecuting DA corrupt and accused her of stalling her investigation, writing, quote, "Why didn't they indict 2.5 years ago? Because they wanted to do it right in the middle of my political campaign. Witch hunt." Trump allies on Capitol Hill once again coming to his defense. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy tweeting, quote, "Americans see through this desperate sham." It's the fourth indictment handed down against the former president, including federal charges related to his handling of classified documents after leaving the White House and federal charges of an alleged scheme to overturn the 2020 election. On CBN's Faith Nation program, Nathan Gonzalez, editor and publisher of Inside Elections, predicts Trump supporters will remain unfazed.
I think that it will go into the same basket of these investigations. They're just out to get him, and they continue to be on his side.
You know, every time you get indicted, I like to check the polls because one more indictment that I think this election's over. One more.
District Attorney Willis gave all the defendants, including Trump, until Friday, August 25th to turn themselves in, and added she wants to hold the trial within the next 6 months. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
CBN News chief political analyst David Brody joins us now. With all these indictments, we're seeing a lot of you lately, David, which is a good thing. The Georgia prosecutor used the term racketeering, a racketeering law, to bring the charges. How is this different from the earlier indictments?
Well, it's broader. There's not just Trump, it's 19 others. And so it goes into much more detail specifically of what happened in Georgia. But it is very similar to what Jack Smith was doing at the national level. But look, if you look inside the indictment, Andrew, the terms that are being used, criminal enterprise, in essence, Fani Willis is in essence saying that these are, in essence, mobsters kind of all in it to kind of fix the system or fix the situation down in Georgia. Hold on for a second. Donald Trump, let's be clear what he was doing. He thought there was fraud in the election. He wanted the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, down in Georgia to look into it. If you listen to the phone call, and I've listened to it many times, and I've read the transcript many times as well, if you listen to it, Donald Trump is saying, what about this? What about this? So the point is that he wasn't asking for Brad Raffensperger to find votes that would definitely secure him the election, and if you didn't, you're in trouble. It wasn't anything like that. He wanted to know what in the world was going on. That is called protected free speech, according to many of the at least conservative lawyers that are talking about this. Not to mention, it's also allowed under the Federal Electoral Count Act at the time. So there's a lot to be parsed through here, but this is once again going to be a boon for Trump. There's no doubt about it.
Well, David, certainly Trump is insinuating and stating this is interference in the election. And no matter what side of the political aisle you're on, it would be hard to argue the timing of these indictments, the fourth now. If Trump weren't running for president, would all this action even be occurring, do you think?
Well, look, it's a good question. the short answer may be no, but I actually think the longer answer may be yes. And here's why. Because I think that the left and the Democrats in this country were out to get Trump no matter what. Ever since he glided down that escalator and won the presidency of the United States, they have just, it's been sitting with them. They've wanted revenge on him ever since that happened. So even if he wasn't running for president, I think they want to lock him up. I think they've been wanting to do that for a very long time. Andrew, if I could just kind of get down to brass tacks here. Here's what this is really about. Donald Trump, as we've talked about all along, is a fighter. He was fighting, in his view, that he believed the election was rigged and stolen and all of that. But look, if he's looking for fraud, he was trying to push back on this idea that government officials were just telling him it's over. He didn't believe it was over. Now, you could totally disagree with him on that. That's fine. But does he have a right to actually question the election? And in essence, he's pushing back against the narrative that the government in Georgia and the federal government and others said in this case. So that's what this is about. I believe this will definitely go all the way to the Supreme Court if it even gets to trial, because this seems to be a freedom of speech issue here, and that's it in a nutshell.
Well, clearly Trump supporters aren't affected by the indictments. His numbers go up. But what about the Republican Party? What does this do to the party itself? There may be some in leadership who are glad to see this happen and could get Trump out of the way. Are others real concerned now about the election coming up? Where do you think it stands?
Well, they want Trump to disappear. I mean, the Mitch McConnells and many of the establishment folks on the Republican side want him to just leave and just go away. The problem is that he's not going away, and he just keeps getting stronger. And so clearly there's concerns about the general election from their vantage point. But I see this as a counterintuitive situation. I believe that this will actually embolden Donald Trump, help him in the general election with blue-collar, frustrated Rust Belt voters who see a government stacked against them. And I think the indictments will actually help him win back blue-collar voters in 2024.
All right, David, thank you. Always appreciate your insight. Thanks for being with us today.
You bet.
In other news, authorities in Hawaii are urging survivors of the Maui fire to provide DNA samples to help identify their lost loved ones. Jenna Browder has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. Jenna?
Andrew, Hawaii's governor reports 99 people lost their lives in the deadliest wildfire to hit the U.S. in more than 100 years. With hundreds still missing, that number is expected to keep rising.
It's going to be emotionally catastrophic.
I understand that people want numbers. It's not a numbers game. It's not just ash on your clothing when you take it off. It's our loved ones.
Stories are coming out of people sacrificing themselves to help others. The family of Joe Schilling says he also died a hero trying to assist his elderly neighbors. And the firefighters who fought the blaze, 17 of those who lived in Lahaina, lost their own homes. There are positive scenes as locals come together donating their own goods to help those who lost everything. And representatives of CBN's Operation Blessing are in Hawaii purchasing supplies and working with partners, Youth with a Mission, to get that relief to those in need. Well, people in need of healing and restoration often turn to nature. That's why a 70-year-old ministry is dedicated to spreading the gospel in America's beautiful public lands, from Alaska to the Virgin Islands. CBN's Brody takes us to California's Yosemite National Park to see how God is changing lives through this grassroots, student-led effort.
In some of Earth's last standing wild spaces, many visitors experience nature in its raw form, while also searching for healing, restoration, or peace.
You've got something as a backdrop that is so beautiful that people are going, who made this? What does this mean?
Those working in the parks, however, say life's not always rainbows and butterflies.
There's a lot of really hard things that happen in the parks. Every year we hear of things like drug abuse, alcohol abuse, suicide.
Many of the country's more than 420 designated public lands contain remote and rugged terrain. These are the places where ACMNP, or a Christian ministry in the national parks, sends team members.
You are thrust into an environment where you don't have a ready-made church at hand. You're not trying to actually even plant a church. You're trying to create a seasonal church.
Founder Warren Oast began the ministry in 1951 when he saw no connection between Yellowstone and the local church. It started with a Bible study in the bar of the Old Faithful Inn, sharing faith and hope with park guests. To date, the organization serves in 45 parks.
This is the iconic Yosemite Valley behind me, where an estimated 4 million people from across the globe travel just to see these natural wonders. But when it comes to sharing the gospel this summer to visitors, that responsibility rests on the shoulders of one woman.
Well, we don't have anything like this in Minnesota. We have lakes, we don't have mountains.
21-year-old Grace Bennett left her home state for the first time in May to experience a California summer, grow in her relationship with God, and help others do the same.
It's one of the only places in the world that you can find this kind of granite.
She found work in Yosemite through ACMNP, serving as a park employee during the week and leading worship on Sunday.
I think there's something so special about being able to preach the gospel in his creation. So many people are drawn here because they're drawn to beauty or mystery or magnificence or all those things, and they are here for that reason. They're searching for that, but they don't know who they're actually searching for.
Even though Grace is the ministry's sole representative in Yosemite, she joins some 15,000 alumni who see the national parks as a special place where people can connect with God.
Going to work, I don't necessarily look at the mountains anymore. I'm not stopping to pause at the waterfall every time I pass it. And yet, when I do, I'm just greatly humbled just to be here.
Reporting in Yosemite National Park, California, Brody Carter, CBN News.
And just beautiful. Andrew, back to you.
Jenna, one of the cool things about that story is, that over 70 years ago it started that ministry. Now it's in over 45 parks, and it starts with a small Bible study in a small inn. There's an old expression, don't despise small beginnings. Here, people are out looking for adventure or finding themselves, looking for peace. They may just find Jesus as a result.